All right, I'm excited to welcome our next speaker. Unfortunately, I cannot say to the stage because of urgent work priorities that came up. So we will be hearing from Amandeep Singh Gill virtually from the Office of the Secretary General of the United Nations Special Envoy on Technology. Amandeep's expertise really lies not just in digital transformation, not just in artificial intelligence, but also what it means to develop tools that contribute to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Without further ado, over to Amandeep. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person, but it's a delight to speak again at the World AI Summit. And thank you to Sarah and her talented team for building this inclusive and diverse platform and for the invitation to speak. In 2 weeks from now, the United Nations Secretary General will convene a global multi-stakeholder advisory body on artificial intelligence. Members of this body have been shortlisted from a slate of 1,800 candidates across disciplines, age, gender, and geographies following an open call. The interest in participation in the body from governments, private sector, society, and independent experts has been extraordinary. Why is this important and urgent, and what can we expect from the body? This distinguished audience is aware that recent breakthroughs in the development and deployment of large language models have caught the attention of the press, political leaders, and the public at large. What were niche subjects earlier find mention today in Paris Match and Rolling Stones. There is, of course, the excitement of what AI chatbots and other tools can do to enhance creative output, productivity at work, and the digital economy. Having worked in the area of digital health and AI for health, I'm particularly excited about the potential of AI to accelerate research and development in science and bridge the last mile gap in public health and education. Equally, there is concern that powerful technologies are being released at scale without sufficient thought to safety, security, and the well-being of users. Misinformation, disinformation, and behavioral manipulation could scale new heights. Half the planet goes into elections next year in India, South Africa, the United States, and the Europe. AI-enabled deepfakes could undermine democracy. Immature use could have serious consequences for the stock markets. Job markets could shift suddenly without giving sufficient time to institutions to adjust. And economic power could become further concentrated in a few countries and companies. AI-infused cyber or other weaponry, such as new types of biological weapons, could wreak havoc, and some even fear an existential risk to humanity. Now, how do we navigate between fear and the excitement, between promise and peril? We need first a global multidisciplinary conversation on risks and challenges, governance responses, opportunities, and enablers. If AI matters for humanity, for good or for bad, all of humanity must be involved in its governance. Beyond G1, G2, G7, or G20, there is a G193, a universal and inclusive forum based on the universal values enshrined in the UN Charter. A sustained and structured conversation is needed to build scientific consensus on risks and challenges, the now risks, the medium-term risks, and the longer-term risks. This advisory body is the first step in that direction. Views on risk can often occult special interest, and there is a need for a continued apolitical assessment which lets the public and the politicians make informed choices. Think IPCC for climate change. We also need a way to build connective tissue across the various AI governance initiatives being rolled out. The EU AI Act, the design principles and code of conduct coming out of the G7 Hiroshima process. I was in Kyoto earlier this week, and the Japanese Prime Minister announced the first results of this exercise. There is legislation on the anvil in Brazil and Chile. The substantive work on safety and risk management planned for the UK summit on AI next month. The existing work of UN entities such as UNESCO, ITU, and the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, and many more. So we need to bring this together. Governments in the global majority, in particular, would benefit from recommendations based on a sober analysis of these responses, the discovery of commonalities, and everyone, regardless of whether they are in the global north or the global south, will benefit from the identification of gaps in governance and areas for greater R&D investment into AI governance. Related to this second aspect is the issue of an international response that is nested with national governance frameworks and industry standards and practices. Many countries, academics, and commentators have called for a new United Nations entity on AI. Several models have been mentioned: the International Atomic Energy Agency, the International Civil Aviation Organization, the International Maritime Organization, CERN, and of course, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. They may not be a simple lift and shift, a simple cut and paste, and we may need bespoke forms. Whatever the forms, the exemplars that we consider for those forms, an essential first step is clarity on the functionalities for an international response. The forms can then be debated. Finally, there is the important matter of opportunities. Alongside misuse, we must tackle misuse. We are at the midpoint for the Sustainable Development Goals, and the prognosis is sobering. We're on track only for 15% of the targets related to the SDGs, and we need to catch up fast. Data and AI can help, but how? Business models being currently built today around foundation models might not be sufficient and might in fact set us back on some SDGs. Just think of a multiplication, a proliferation of models tackling the same problem in different parts of the world. That'll be a huge draw on energy and other resources. And then there will be no trickle down, no automatic windfall for the SDGs. And this requires us to think about enablers for realizing the opportunity. Trained human resource, not only in mathematics, computer science, and cognitive sciences, the bedrock disciplines of AI, but also in adjacent and bridging disciplines. High-quality data sets in critical SDG areas such as agriculture, health, education, and the green transition, and then digital infrastructure and data protection frameworks that allow innovators to work with them and build models. If we do not address these foundational pieces urgently, the current digital divide will deepen further. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the urgent tasks before the advisory body, which will deliver an interim report, hopefully before the start of the negotiations on the Global Digital Compact early next year, and a final report before the Summit of the Future at the UN next September, when the Global Digital Compact is proposed for adoption. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to embed AI governance and other critical actions on digital technologies into a leader's level decision. Let's not miss this unique geopolitical window. Innovation has been speeding up. Let's also speed up global cooperation and governance so we can build an empowering and inclusive digital future. Thank you very much. And I'm happy to take a question if there is time.
Thank you so much, Amandeep. I got to tell you, you are all the way in Japan joining us today, and I feel like I'm walking all the way from a hallway over there. So also thank you to the audience for your patience while we make it over. Amandeep, thank you so much. I really appreciate, and I know what you can see the stage and you can see the audience, so we are connected. But there is something so special about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. It can absolutely give us an internal motivation to build something that actually impacts the world in which we're currently living. So you said you're open to a question. I would love to honor that. I did see a hand up. Absolutely, please. The gentleman over there, middle of the room, on the left side. Could we get a runner here? Middle of the room. Thank you for your patience. I know you're all eager to dive into deeper conversations. There'll be plenty of time, so please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Silvio Dolinski. I'm the Deputy Secretary General of the International Organization for Standardization. Thank you very much for your contribution to the summit. I'd like to ask you, what is the role that you see for standards development organizations in complementing the efforts of policymakers and international organizations like the UN? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. I spoke of a nested approach. So international level governance, whether it's principles or other types of guidance, then national and regional regulatory frameworks such as the EU AI Act, and then most importantly, the industry level responses. And that obviously includes codes of conduct, certification schemes, etc. So all these three tiers, including the standards tier, have to work in consonance, have to work in an agile fashion, because technology will move fast. 6 months later, we would be dealing with a new excitement. So how do we make sure that we are in step with technology? Only through this kind of an agile, tiered and distributed governance response.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your question. Appreciate that. Let's give it up one more time for Amandeep Singh Gill. Thank you very much. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.